and welcome to Frontline First Aid. Today I am going to be talking about understanding what's going on for us when we just feel like we are not flowing and we're not firing on all cylinders. And a little bit of an explanation from a brain perspective can go a long way. Now, all of us enjoy being in what I've called here our window of tolerance. Our window of tolerance is where we feel we are in the flow. We can focus, concentrate, we can relax, we can learn, we can have fun, we can plan, you know what I mean. Our body and brain really enjoys and likes being in its window of tolerance. But it's very normal in most of our days that we will have periods of time where we go out of our window of tolerance temporarily. And this might be rushing all the kids out to school in the morning, if you can remember that. It can be sudden pressure of a deadline where we no longer feel completely in our window of tolerance. And this is completely normal. But what's going on? Well, our amygdala, which is the part of the brain that is super sensitive to any risk or danger, starts firing. And we start to go out of our window of tolerance, climbing out. And we'll notice some body-based responses very likely. Maybe we feel we've got butterflies in our tummy, heart rate may go up, might feel hot. Different people actually have different bodily responses, and some people don't respond as much in their body as they do in their mind, noticing thoughts coming in, you're not good enough, or you've got to work harder. So it can be thoughts, feelings, emotions. When we're in our window of tolerance, our whole brain is working well together, communicating, supporting each other. However, when our amygdala notices danger, then it sets the brain up for survival patterns. The higher up of our window, the higher out of our window of tolerance we go, the less access we get to this part of our brain, our cognitive, rational thinking part of our brain. In fact, if we got to the stage where we climbed right the way up of being hyper aroused all the way to the very top of feeling completely overwhelmed, this rational part of our brain really goes offline. And that explains why we might experience feeling very panicky, lost, and have very little access to the vital information we need from our top brain in order to function well. So what do we need to do? Well, we need to recognise what's happening to us. The nearer we are to our window of tolerance, often the easier it is to get ourselves back in. So by recognising that we're climbing out of our window of tolerance, we can then start to access strategies or toolkit that we know or have found or are ready to try that might work for us to just get us nearer our window of tolerance or even back into it, ideally if possible. And there's one other thing I want to tell you about, and this is a piece of information I've found really useful, is that when we go out of our window of tolerance, we have a tendency to go off into one of two directions, one or the other. It may be that we go off into one direction more frequently than the other. And we may go off into chaos, or alternatively into rigidity. So by chaos, it means that we experience the world being very chaotic. We can't really capture our thoughts, and we can't plan too well. Whereas going off into rigidity is usually when people respond by becoming more controlling, maybe micromanaging, And this is important to understand because when we can figure out our own responses that are more typical for us, we can understand why we're behaving the way we are, and we can really let ourselves know that this is normal, absolutely normal response. The other good thing about recognizing this is we can see it in others, and we can recognize that maybe perhaps our colleague may be majoring into going into rigidity and becoming much more micromanaging and controlling than they might be when they're in their window of tolerance. This can help us to have a sense of empathy for ourselves and for others, and recognizing that actually when we go out of our window of tolerance, we don't have too many choices because the amygdala has got in charge. Okay, so more strategies are going to be offered so that you can benefit from increasing what you've got in your toolbox. And I hope you find this model of understanding useful in understanding yourself and others. So thank you for listening.